read the teshuvah of Rabbi Yosef Meshash on the question of forced divorce. If a couple doesn't have children, and after 10 years, the halacha says that after 10 years they must get divorced because they might have a better chance with other people, each one of them. They base it on, there's really no source for that, but they base it on the story of Abraham and Sarah, that Sarah tells Abraham 10 years after they moved to Canaan that maybe he should take Hagar and have a child from her. So that even though they were married before, they say they were married before maybe for less than 10 years, then they moved to Israel, so they restarted the count from the time they were in Israel because maybe the luck of the merit of Israel will help them. So Rabbi Meshash discusses that. The Shulchan Aruch says that, Rabbi Yosef Karo says that in a case of a childless couple, the husband can be forced to divorce his wife, which is interesting because today, when you have a situation of agunot, of women who would not get a get from their husband, the bedin does not force the husband to give a get, meaning that only when the rabbis see a problem, they provide a solution. With the agunot, they don't see a problem. They say, "Oh, the man is here, the woman is here. We'll wait until we convince him to give a get, but we don't want to force him to give a get, which is wrong. It should be forced by any means possible to give that get." Any case, this is what the Shulchan Aruch says. The Rama, Rabbi Moshe Israelis, who represents Ashkenazi halacha, says Bazman hazeh en kufin lotzi. We don't force people to divorce their wives, and they're two very famous rabbis who had no children and stayed married for many, many years. One is a Lubavitcher Rebbe who had no children, and the other one is the Hazon Ish, Rabbi Abraham Yeshayah Karaitz of Bnei Brak. He was the leader of the Litvak Ashkenazi Yeshiva world. So Rabbi Yosef Meshash says, אמנם מה שכתב בשולחן ערוך ובכל הפוסקים כופים אותו עד שיוציא, לא פסקינן הכי. Even though the Shulchan Aruch said that we have to force the husband to divorce, this is not what we do, this is not what we follow. רק כדעת מורם שם בסימן קנ"ד, we follow רבי משה איסרליס. says, and why is that? בזמן הזה שהפרדה והרכבה בעניין זה קשה מאוד מאוד לאדם, ובפרט לצנועים. Is to separate a couple and to remarry is a very difficult thing, especially Latznuim, for people who are very sensitive. It doesn't mean modest. It means people who are sensitive and delicate. Hen mitzad atzmam ki azak hamavet ahavah v'hayafred mar mimavet ki hamavet koret b'pa'am achat v'zeh kol yom. He says that we're talking about a couple where the husband and wife love each other. The problem that they have no children, but other than that, they love. And the couple I told you about before, they really have this kind of very, very strong bond between them. So when they have this strong love, to tell them to separate, it says, it's worse than death, because death cuts away once and for all. But this is on a daily basis. It says if for the husband to see that his wife remarried with someone else, and the same for her, and not only that, פירוד הרבה משפחות, כי כל זיווג קשורים בו הרבה משפחות בעבודות אהבה, כגון בעלי אחיותיהם ואחיות הוריהם. It says all the connections, all the intricate relationships in the family, sisters and brothers-in-law and parents-in-law, all these are going to sever and cast away because this couple doesn't have children. This is what they want, and it says, and bizman ha'efred, and then when they go through this, they could go through such difficulties, lazug ve'orav, merivot u'shonot, and they will go through those tumultuous times with the legal issues, tension between the parents. Some say yes, some say no. וכל העם רואים וכמה עליות וירידות לבדין, וכל העם רואים את הקולות ואת הלפידים. Says, and they become in the eyes of the community, everybody now gets entangled, everybody knows the story, וכמה הוצאות וכמה מרמות ותחבולות של עורכי הדין לסכסך איש באחים משפחה ומשפחה. And then he says the lawyers join the fees and also use it to make money for themselves. So all these problems are connected to when you have that. So I'll continue first what Rabbi Messas says. I want to show you how he recounts the difficulties. And by the way, he went through it himself because his wife didn't have children, and they went through many difficulties. He took her to Spain, to experts, and eventually, after many trials, they had one child. So, in general, is very compassionate and understanding. But this particular thing, of course, he knows from the community. He always looks at the full picture. And he saw probably more than one couple that went through this and what happened to them. So he describes it. And like you asked, this is before doctors were able to say exactly. No, actually, they already knew. They had a means. This is written in the 1940s. But now it's even more advanced. That being able to narrow down who exactly is the problem, the wife or the husband. He doesn't even get into that. He doesn't say it's if the husband has the problem or the wife has the problem. Because in general, even if each one of them marrying another person would definitely be able to have children, there's no excuse to force them to get divorced. So even more so when they go to doctors and they know, because in other discussions of his, he says once science confirms a certain fact, we have to adopt the halakha to it. So we'll talk about it in a different occasion. But he says, so we have the problem of the heartache of seeing one's wife and one's husband with someone else, the tension in the family, paying lawyers and all that. It says, and even if you find a second wife, which will be as, it will be happy with her like the first wife, and for her also, it says, the first marriage is the one that works best for people in most cases. With this, so what if, like you said, maybe for the Sfaradim, they didn't follow the Harem de Rabbeinu Gershom and they practiced bigamy. And by the way, which people have the wrong idea of how bigamy was practiced in the Sephardic world. It was not the common thing to do. The only case where that was done was if the first wife didn't have children, and with her consent, if she agreed, the husband would marry a second wife. Or in cases where the first wife was very ill or very old and couldn't take care of the children, and again, with her consent, the husband would take a second wife. But in most communities, it was not done on a regular basis that you have. You could go back, ask families, it's very, very rare. But Rabbi Messas said, Lisa isha heret, ele kashe me'el. This is even more difficult. Ki tzarich lafkir hayav unchasav, ki shetayim ra'ot afim tzedkaniot. So they're going to get into this tension in the household of having two wives that will probably fight with each other. It says, all this to fulfill the mitzvah. It says, we have a very simple rule regarding fulfilling a mitzvot, observing a mitzvah, in the words of the rabbis. It says, mitzta'er, if it causes one suffering, he is exempt from doing this mitzvah. If it will cause you, because mitzvot are supposed to bring joy and happiness and not suffering. So he gives examples. Rabbi Yohanan, la hava manach tefillin besitra mibnei akrirut. There was a great rabbi, Rabbi Yohanan, famous rabbi in the Gemara. He wouldn't put tefillin in the winter. Some say only the tefillin shel rosh. But still, not put it. Why? Because he suffered from the cold, and he wouldn't be able to, he would wrap his head constantly, wouldn't be able to put his tefillin directly on his head. Can you imagine that? A great rabbi, you see his tefillin wrapped all day in the synagogue for 6 months, What happened? Winter, I don't put on tefillin. Why don't you go to Florida? You put tefillin, right? They didn't have the option back then. But mitztayr, he says he's suffering. He's patur. He doesn't have to do it. He didn't do any avera. He's avoiding a positive mitzvah. It's amazing. And also, the other example he brings us, not sitting in a sukkah, that one does not sit in a sukkah because if he's suffering of the cold or anything else. So, we see, especially in this case, we see that people try and strive to find a mate. They get married, and then if they don't have children, they have tosefet ha'ishtadlut berofim. They go and visit doctors. And they go to visit the gravesite of the righteous tzaddikim to pray. And he adds in parentheses, I don't agree with it. It was very rational. This is not what's going to help you. Go to the doctors first, pray, and you can pray to Hashem from wherever you are. But it says it's good lehasira dinyonim. Sometimes it works as auto-suggestion, as a placebo to calm people. So in this case, the person is not that he says, I'm not interested at all. Both of them are trying as much as they can, and if it didn't work for them, that's it. They did their effort. He says, you don't have to do anything more. And he also prays for the couple who asked the question to have children. But all in all, we see that the approach is to see the full picture and to act with sensitivity and understand the people who are asking the question, not go just by dry parameters of halakha. You have to have children. You didn't have children, 10 years, goodbye. As if we're not talking about human beings, but just machines.